Oh, gather around, my friends, to hear a tale about the rise of socialism. Because yes, apparently, recent Chicago election featured strong showing for Democratic socialists. The story from the CBC. Despite Trump's scaremongering, socialism is gaining a foothold in America. I'm going to have to agree with that. There's a graph that I showed on my main channel today, where you can see that the Democrats have moved far left. And I'll tell you what, if you've watched my content, you've probably seen 50 different graphs showing the same thing. The Republicans are not becoming far right. They're moving slightly to the right at the median. It's the Democrats that are adopting far left policies. And because the Democrats are moving so rapidly to the far left, Republicans are staying where they are. They look more conservative. In fact, why do you think it is that so many people say, quote, the left left me? It's because they're not becoming conservative. The left is drifting so far and so fast towards the far left, towards socialism, towards identitarianism, that people are getting left behind. The way I kind of describe it, though, is that they eat their own. They push people out. Not only are they moving far left, they're telling people like me, other individuals who have always been on the left, if you don't bend the knee, we will cast you out. And now we have this. It's an analysis piece saying socialism on the rise. But we do have stories from this month. Real Clear Policy. So, Real Clear Politics, vertical, I don't know what you'd call it. Why is socialism on the rise? Loneliness. But we'll get to this. Let's see what they're saying, because they claim socialism is on the rise. Caitlin Brady speaks of socialism as though it's the only rational response to 21st century America. I work full-time, I work 40 hours a week, and I qualify for food stamps, the 31-year-old said, explaining why she volunteered for the Democratic Socialists of America campaign in Chicago's municipal elections last month. Now, I think this is a problem. You should not be working 40 hours a week and be living on food stamps. But what's interesting is that you have someone who is on a socialized welfare program saying, I shouldn't be, the solution is more socialized welfare programs. I kind of feel like something's wrong there. Now, look, I tend to be on the left. I lean here. I want to make another important point too, right? In this, I'm close to a social democratic position, like the Scandinavian style government stuff. Close to it. The issue is just because, let me try and frame it this way. Food stamps are a social welfare program. It doesn't mean I think food stamps are the right thing. I think there are programs we can do through government to improve the situation for poor people, to help reduce wealth inequality and stabilize our country and do good things. The problem is you have a lot of surface level people who don't see beyond something like a minimum wage, which might not work. So what goes beyond the surface level argument? Well, for a lot of people, it's we should have free food and free college. Well, hold on. That's not going to solve your problem, right? The idea is, I think the government can help solve these problems. We can allocate community funding towards solving these problems. Does that mean a minimum wage makes the most sense? It doesn't. Does it mean free college makes the most sense? It does not. It means we need to sit down and figure out what the government can do to improve these things. And it's a community solution situation, right? So I lean left on these issues. But you look at these people who it may be that the social welfare programs are weighing people down. And we need to find a different way to solve this problem, right? Let's read on. To get food stamps in Illinois, that means Brady makes no more than $1,670 a month. She pays no income tax on that, but neither did tech behemoth Amazon pay tax on the reported $10.8 billion it made last year. The richest country in the history of the world, Brady said, and I'm not able to put a roof over my head and eat. And that is a problem. I don't know what's causing that problem because it's extremely complicated, but it is a problem. Like many toiling in the trenches of the DSA campaign, Brady is a millennial, born between the early 1980s and 2000. Theirs is the biggest generation since the baby boom, and the most likely to think the American dream, success equals prosperity, is dead. But the issue is our parents. You want to know why I think the American dream is not dead? Well, I succeeded. So people then say to me, yes, Tim, but you're the exception, not the rule. And I reject that. It's really, look, I hired someone recently to help me do some work because we're working on a project. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into it. 19-year-old kid, dropped out of college, started a company. He's making, I'll just put it this. He charges the right amount for someone who's probably in their 30s, and he's 19. The reality is the economy is doing really well. You can't rely on going to school and working crappy jobs. You need to develop skills. Too many people believe the American dream is taking out $100,000 in debt, going to college, and then you have your dream job. Well, that's wrong. Now, personally, I think society is to blame for part of that. And even if you don't agree and you say, yep, well, no, that's their problem. Sure. But they vote, and they're voting socialist. So if we can't figure out how to solve this problem and alleviate the stress these people are feeling and find them meaningful labor and purpose, they're just going to keep voting socialist, which isn't going to solve the problem at all. It's going to make it worse. And that's what I describe all the time as like a Chinese finger trap. Sometimes it's got to be counterintuitive. Push the fingers in, and then the trap will let your hands be freed. So we're seeing this problem. It needs to be solved. I don't know necessarily what the solution is, but I do know everyone is pulling as hard as they can in the trap. They're getting socialized programs. They want more. It's not going to solve the problem. Because if these programs are paid for by taxes, and then eventually everyone is on those programs, she's not paying any taxes on the money she's making. If everyone is at that level, then who pays into the welfare program? Okay? We need to solve this problem. I do think government can do it. It just means that we need to sit down, figure it out, and solve the problem. But let's move on. Let's take a look at this. Why is socialism on the rise? Because, look, let's be real. It absolutely is. RCP says, from presidential candidate Bernie Sanders to freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, figures who openly call themselves democratic socialists dominate much of the discussion within the Democratic Party. How did this happen? How has America gone from a nation in which socialist arguments are on the fringe to one in which they are a topic of mainstream debate? Part of that answer may be that today's socialists downplay its more obvious Marxian excesses. Even Bernie Sanders has stopped calling for government ownership of the means of production. Today's socialism entails a managed economy, one that is at least ostensibly in private hands, while being guided by tax policies, prohibitions, and demands from the administrative state. But that's not overt socialism, right? And so this is an important distinction that maybe RCP, I think they lean more right. Socialism would be the government controls the means of production. After that, we figure things out. So you could have a socialist system in which the factories that make cars are owned by the government. And then you work there, you get paid, and there's still currency. That's not a good thing. And we do move in that direction. But let's read on. Thanks to work by Cass Sunstein and others, socialists have been able to effectively recast socialism as mere nudging by friendly administrators to help people choose what they ought to want to do. Socialism is outsourced to private industry. It's an interesting situation going on. But I don't think it's necessarily socialism. You could call it like corporate fascism, right? We can call it that. And I mean it seriously. Maybe corporate authoritarianism or corporate oligarchy with what we're seeing with Twitter and Facebook. And this may be why the far left loves the censorship. They don't care. Ban anybody they want, just so long as they have that power. That's the right thing. They're fighting for it. But outsourced socialism remains essentially socialist. The government still controls how things are produced, by whom, and at what prices, as well as controlling who consumes how much of what. It is part of the same movement towards ever more government control over citizens' lives, as evidenced by the so-called Green New Deal. Exactly. When you say, we are going to issue a tax that punishes all these businesses, that's still the government controlling the economy. So a punitive tax, I question. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to get into the idea of punitive taxes. But a punitive tax would be like, we're going to put a tax on cigarettes so people don't buy them. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Like telling people what they can or can't do by making it more expensive and then using the taxes for something. I don't know. Let's read on. But I want to see now what are they talking about with loneliness. There we go. The most important reason is loneliness. More Americans are susceptible to the allure of socialism because more of us find ourselves adrift looking for meaning, purpose, and belonging in the world. It would be easy to caricature this statement as a mere appeal to emotions, but I'm referring to loneliness not just as an emotion state, but as an objective one. Marxists would call it alienation, of being disconnected from the natural associations in which people learn to lead flourishing lives together. Commentators have lamented for years now that the rising generation seems incapable of, rising. It may be easy to make fun of young people for demanding safe spaces from the ideas they find objectionable or bristling it as microaggressions, or requiring classes in adulting, or failing to leave home for college, or to find productive work, or moving back in with their parents after graduation. Rising. Think about it. What do you think is going to happen when everything's socialist and there is no more rising? Everyone's just going to sit around. I will point this out. If there was no light at the end of the tunnel for the work I'm doing, Do you think I would work nearly as hard as I would? The answer is no. 100%. I am one of the most passionate and driven people I've ever encountered. Okay? I encounter myself. The point I'm trying to make is, that's a joke. The point I'm trying to make is, I know a lot of people who do good work and are passionate. And I know some people who work their hands to the bone. I know people who wake up and run 10 miles. They sleep 4 hours a night. They are driven. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is something that quantifies their success. I'll tell you what. One of the reasons that I do what I do is to provide for my friends and family, to do better. And so I know if I just work harder, I can get that dream. I can get that new house. I can buy my mom a house. I can improve the lives of my family. I can pay for that healthcare. I can do what I have to do if I just push harder every day. But I'll tell you what, I certainly long for those beautiful beaches, sitting around drinking a coconut. Work used to be so much easier, and I made more money. I tell you, when I worked for Disney, easiest job I've ever had. Just being who I was, traveling, doing documentary. We would do, one documentary every few months or so, working on it. And it was just relaxing, working at the pace you need to work. And that's how most people live their lives. You work hard, but you work the amount you need to. There are a lot of people who work as hard as possible and work full time and struggle to get by. And that is unfortunate. Not everybody has the intelligence to become, become better and better and make more and more money. So that's why I'm kind of more on the left. Like we can solve that problem. It's not their fault. But at the same time, we can't punish those who are successful simply for being smart. But here's the thing. If I wasn't living in a capitalist system, I wouldn't do this. Hands down, no way. No. I'd probably do like 1 or 2 videos per day just because I like talking about these ideas. But I will tell you what, if we were in a complete socialist system where the majority of your income is taxed and you have very little, I'd be like, why bother? Seriously. I'd rather go just hang out at the skate park with my buddies and stare up at the clouds and just relax and enjoy myself. And I'd rather skate. But I do this for a few reasons. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see the expansion of business and purpose. I can see, if I just make one more video, maybe I can hire someone and send them to go cover news on the ground. And guess what? I did it. Over the past year, I've been working harder and harder. And I'll tell you what, it is stressful. But now I am helping fund journalists who are actually on the ground. Look at our Subverse channel. We're going to have more reporting on the ground in France. And this is only possible because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not about having money to buy myself a car. It's not about having more money to buy a luxury watch. I wear the same clothes every day. I want to take care of my family first and foremost, but I want to do more. In a socialist system, can you do that? The answer is no. The government decides. And if the government decides you can't, then you can't. So why do it? There's no path to success. And that's the problem with socialism. They say it's about rising. If you can't rise, if you can't become connected, if you can't succeed, why do it? I don't know. I'll say this. Socialism's on the rise. And I think perspective is a part of it. People don't seem to realize that having a smartphone makes you so damn wealthy. You have so much more today than your parents did. And they're still acting like they're worse off. You kidding me? Medical technology has advanced to an extreme degree. We can cure so many more diseases. Your parents will get a disease, they'd die. Today, we have a cure for some of those diseases. We've advanced medical technology. It's expensive, it is. But you won't die. That's the crazy thing. It's one of the biggest conundrums we're going to face. Think about this. In the 70s, if you were diagnosed with a disease we had no cure for, they'd say, I'm sorry. There's quite literally no amount of money that will save your life. And that was sad, and they'd die. Today, there is an amount of money that will save your life, $100,000. And then they lament the debt they're in because they need treatment. While I think it sucks that you have to pay the debt to survive, you have to recognize the cure exists. You're not going to die. How we solve this problem, I don't know. Because more people are coming in, are getting indebted because we have the technology and the ability to save them. Now, I'm not going to excuse those pharmaceutical companies who jack up prices and are robbing people blind, and the whole nightmare of a healthcare industry and the insurance company that jacks up prices and makes things ridiculously expensive, like a $15 Tylenol. I'm not kidding. One pill can cost you like $15. That's screwed up. We need to figure out how to deal with that. The point is, there will still be the problem of, if we can afford to cure you today, don't be upset because we couldn't do it 20 years ago. As technology advances, we're going to see more of this. You have an iPhone. Your parents didn't have access to the summation of human knowledge in the palm of their hand to play whatever game they wanted. You can play video games from like PlayStation 3 on your phone. It's amazing technology that you have access to. You do have it better than your parents. How, they maybe in terms of, can you own a house? Things like that. That's a problem. I'll say this, one final thought. The solution is often counterintuitive. I do think we need to figure out a way to alleviate college debt for two reasons. They're voting for socialists, and they're going to make the problem worse. Let's figure out a plan. Donald Trump's talked about it, but more importantly, the housing market. Get rid of the student loan debt. I think, here's my pitch so far. I haven't thought it out too much, but it's like freeze interest. Just let them pay off the principal slowly, and don't have it keep racking up beyond what they actually owed in the first place. Stop the interest, let them pay it back. You reap what you sow, but at least it won't be predatory, okay? The more important thing, though, is if millennials get access to more capital, then the housing market will improve. And that's huge for people's retirements, for family investment, and for millennials to own houses. And one of the biggest things holding them back is massive student loan debt. So I'll leave it there. I think socialism is bad. Let's figure out how to get rid of it. I got one more video coming up in a few minutes. I'll see you shortly.